Good afternoon, folks. It's Dr. Magic with another Pops Deck Tech. I am sitting here today with myself. This is actually one of the standard decks that I have been playing, and I've had some folks in the last few days ask me about it, and I wanted to kind of break it down for them, but I thought everyone would enjoy it. So this is my take on Esper Control in the new standard. One of the things about this deck you have to realize is that it is control. It is big boy control. It takes a long time to generate a win condition. You basically spend most of the game dealing with your opponent's win conditions before dropping one of your own and swiftly ending the game. If you find that fun, like I do, you will love this deck. It may be my favorite deck I've ever played in a standard environment, just because it's so diverse and you get to do so many neat things. And that really starts with Jace. 4 of Jace, you have to have 4 of Jace to make this thing work. Your spells are so good, and casting them twice just ridiculously good. So people have asked me about, you know, quote unquote investing in Jace now that the price is high. You know, it's not really an investment from the standpoint of, are you going to make money by buying Jace now? Long term, probably not. But, you know, right now you can get him for 60 to 65 if you look in the right spots. And that's not an outrageous price. You have to remember that this card is going to be in standard for at least another year. It's modern played, and it's even seeing legacy play. So if you're looking for, you know, make a few dollars, that ship has sailed. If you're looking for a card that you can jam into any deck that's got blue in it, that is a wise investment from a play standpoint. So don't be afraid to pick those up if the timing is right for you and you want to build blue. 1 Fathom Feeder, good card. Just one of, when you see it, it's great. If you see it early, it kind of sits around as a death toucher, so it's kind of like an early removal spell. Late game, with this ability to draw you cards, that's a wonderful way just to dump some mana at the end of turn. Don't have a lot of creatures, so we included the planeswalkers here with the critters. 2 Gideon, ally of Zendikar, just absolutely fantastic. Helps you turn the corner, helps you go from real passive to aggressive in a hurry. Comes down, makes a bro, +1, him and the bro come swinging in, and when you couple him with the next guy, Sorrin, you can really rebuild your life total. You'll take some hits from time to time, some pretty big life swings. Play Gideon, make a bro. The next turn, play Sorrin, +1 Gideon, +1 Sorrin now. Gideon is a 6, the token is a 3. You're swinging 9 lifelink. That really helps you kind of close games out and turn the corner. Narset and Ob Nixilis have a little bit less to do with the creatures, but are just straight value. Narset is, you know, it's a draw because of the +1. You have so many non-land, non-creature cards in here, with there being 5 creatures. So she's just walking card advantage. Her neg 2, you know, the ability to rebound something like a Languish or a Dig Through Time. You know, if you neg a Languish, neg 2 and cast a Languish, they know if they play anything on the next turn, it's going to die. So it's almost like a time walk. And there are a few things more ridiculous than neg 2ing her, casting a Dig Through Time, only to have it rebound again on your next upkeep. Folks, that's 14 cards you get to search through and take 4. That's a pretty healthy chunk of cards in your hand. Ob Nixilis, he's kind of a walking 2-for-1 when he comes down, and you destroy a creature. Then they have to spend a spell dealing with him, and if that's not the mode that you need, he just helps you continue to draw cards. So the more cards in your hand, the more answers you have. Those guys work really well together. All the spells, all the planeswalkers. Jace is essentially almost always a planeswalker, with the added ability to get him back from Ojutai's command, which we'll see in the spell section, which we'll move on to right now. Obviously, when we looked at the creatures, there is not a lot of them, so that obviously means we're going to have a lot of spells, 24 of them to be exact. This deck is it's a control deck, but it's not a counter control deck as much as it is a board control deck. We do have some counter spells to take care of some of the more bothersome threats, but for the most part, their stuff is going to resolve, and then we're going to kill it. So we've got 2 ultimate prices and a Murderous Cut. That's our instant speed removal. Ultimate price looked when Eldrazi came back to be not as powerful, but that has proven that to be a false concern, and ultimate price is very good. About the only threat that it doesn't deal with early is Mantis Rider, and that you're just going to have to Ruinous Path on your turn. Murderous Cut, great to be able to pay 1 mana for a removal spell, helps you to cast 2 spells, take care of a couple of threats. Ruinous Path, not Hero's Downfall, unfortunately, in that it is sorcery speed. However, still does destroy a creature or a planeswalker. The Awaken mode is significant in some games where you want to animate your lands, and that can be your win condition. You can also animate the Shambling Vent. Shambling Vent then becomes something like a 6/7 lifelink, which is a pretty good way to stabilize and kind of work away on your opponent's life total. Every control deck needs a couple of sweepers. Languish is probably the best in that most threats in the format are going to succumb to its neg4, and it is one of those spells that cast over and over again, whether it's off the rebound from Narset or whether it's off of Jace's neg3. Planar Outburst is the other sweeper. It just kills everything, and also does have an awaken cost. So good to have one of those. Those are really great also to neg2 and cast with Narset, because they do get rebound, and your opponent basically knows anything that they cast the following turn is going to die, so it's almost like a time walk. So those sweepers are very, very relevant. 2 Utter Ends are just kind of the catch-all. Don't deal with enchantments particularly well, but there isn't a whole lot of enchantments that you really care about. Master of the Unseen, perhaps. Utter End is just great in that it exiles. It deals with any permanent at instant speed. Also takes care of Hangerback Walkers. They don't get the tokens because it's exiled, and can also be one of those things that you bounce back and take care of a couple of things that just need to go away, like Den Protectors or the annoying Raptors. We do have a few counters. Ojutai's Command, Scatter to the Winds. Scatter to the Winds just continues the tradition of a 2-blue and a colorless counterspell. This one does have an Awaken, again, sometimes relevant, but mostly you're going to hold that spell for the things that are really going to hurt, things you can't deal with otherwise. Ojutai's Command, every mode is relevant, depending on what deck you're playing. The card is just ridiculously good. Returning a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield is something you do at the end of their turn, and so if your Jace happens to have gotten killed, you can bring him back at the end of their turn. When your turn starts, he has no more summoning sickness, and so you can start looting, flipping right away. Very relevant mode. Gaining 4 life against aggressive decks is great. Countering another creature spell and drawing a card, and being able to do 2 of those is really relevant. Again, bouncing that back and casting it a couple of times, whether it's gaining life or drawing cards, just value every time you cast it. 2 Despises, they used to be in the sideboard, now I've put them in the main. Great early disruption. You kind of take out the threat that you don't want to have to kill otherwise, and every time I draw it, it's relevant. I've done things before late in the game where I did draw Despise, cast it, looked at their hand, saw they had 2 threats, took the one I wanted right then, -3 on Jace, cast it again, ripped their hand apart. So Despise is a great card anytime. And Dig Through Time is just, the most value getting card in Standard. There's no reason not to run 4 of them, especially in this deck. You cast a lot of spells, so Delve is not a problem. Also, you get to cast your spells a lot of times, so if you dig early and later on in the game you kind of get stuck, need some answers, you can neg3 Jace, cast Dig again. Because it's 2 blue and Delve, it's something you can do on your turn and not have to tap all your mana out, so you still have mana up to cast the answers you find with it. The other thing you can do with it that's really gross is you can neg2 Narset to give it rebound. So basically you search 14 cards, pick the 4 that you want, and go from there. I had a game recently against a good player with a good deck. I cast Dig Through Times effectively 5 times between kicking it back with Jace and with Narset, and my card advantage just overwhelmed him. So Dig Through Time is just really the enabler and just a great card to play when you're looking for answers. So those are the spells. Let's take a quick look at the land base. Okay, let's take a quick look at the land base for Esper Control. It's pretty much what you'd expect. It takes advantage, obviously, of the dual lands from Battle for Zendikar. We have 3 basic islands, 2 basic swamps, a basic plains. You can see they're white bordered. That's kind of something I picked up from Arilax back on a Pro Tour. Just found that they're easier to fetch for, which is absolutely true. The white kind of stands out. Plus, it's pretty easy to tell if you have 2 on board to bring the battle lands in untapped. So 4 Sunken Hollows, 4 Prairie Streams, 4 Shambling Vents. Those are your duels. The problem with the Shambling Vent is you cannot fetch for it. However, it does have the ability to turn into a dude, and again, you can awaken it and further make it big. So you can awaken it, put 4 counters on it. It becomes a 6/7 when activated with lifelink. Actually very relevant. And then 4 Deltas and 4 Flooded Strands. Opening hand, you really are interested in having a fetch and a blue or a black source. The white's not as important early, but by the time you hit to about turn 4, you need to make sure that you have a white mana to do things like Utter End and Ojutai's Command. So that's the land base. Take a real quick look at the sideboard, just so you see what that's like. If you've watched any Magic at Pop's deck text to this point, you see we don't do the sideboards a lot. There's a reason for that, and that is because your local meta is obviously going to be different than ours. I felt like doing the sideboard in this case because I really don't care what your meta is. This is what your sideboard is going to look like, with a possible couple of exceptions. The first 5 cards are just an additional one of things that we found in the main deck: an extra Utter End, an extra Languish, an extra Ojutai's Command, an extra Fathom Feeder, and an extra Narset. You want to bring those things in. Utter Ends, again, great against things you need to exile and against enchantments. Languish against creature heavy decks. Ojutai's Command just does work. Fathom Feeder is a great answer to Gaia's Revenge. You can't hit it with a non-green spell, but the big thing doesn't have trample, so it dies to a 1/1 Death Toucher. Narset is really, really relevant in aggro matchups. Not only does she have an incredibly high starting loyalty, but neg 2 Narset on an Ojutai's Command, so that you can gain 4 life and bring a creature back twice. It's just such a stabilizing thing. It's people who are trying to work on your life total that they can overcome it. The way they overcome that is they have to attack Narset, and she's usually a 6 or a 7 loyalty by the time they start attacking her, so she in and of herself is like gaining 7 life. So that's why we have her, a second one of her coming in out of the side. The creatures come in. Tasigur, who doesn't want to cast a 4/5 for 1 mana? You do a lot of delve. Late game, the card advantage on the grindier matchups with his ability is really, really great. Arashan Cleric is an all-star against, again, aggressive decks, especially with Ojutai's Command. You can cast Arashan Cleric, you gain 3 life, you throw it in front of something, it dies. At the end of the turn, Ojutai's Command back Arashan Cleric, choosing to gain 4 life. That's a 10 life swing, and you get to block 2 things. So Arashan Cleric, absolute all-star out of the side against aggressive decks, and just one of those cards that really turns the tide and puts you way out of reach. By the time they can deal with that 10 life, you've set up and you have complete control. The bottom 6 cards are, again, to flavor and taste a little bit, but again, not too much changing here except for the Infinite Obliterations. A Duress and a Virulant Plague. Duress great against other control decks. Neg 2 Narset Duress, you kind of pick their hand apart. Virulant Plague shuts down Hangerback Walkers, shuts down those little goblin-y decks, so one of that is a great addition. I run 2 Negates. Negate's a great catch-all for non-creature spells, cancels planeswalkers, enchantments, the annoying Atarka's commands or Jamoka's commands. Negate, a great card. The Infinite Obliterations are somewhat of a kind of spice to this. A lot of people run 2 Dispels there. Again, Dispel is a great card. Your local meta they dictate. However, the toughest thing that I have found to work through and around with this deck is the Den Protector recursion, you have a lot of answers, and you have a lot more answers than most control decks have ever dreamt of having, in that you can get them back and find them when you need them. However, the Den Protector, Flip, Raptor thing can really wear on your nerves after a while, and just you have to play very, very tight. If you can drop it of Infinite Obliteration, take care of Den Protectors, all of a sudden that recursion doesn't happen, and you win those games going away. So I really like Infinite Oblites over the Dispels, but try them and see what you like. So that's it for this deck tech, folks. This has been Dr. Magic with my take on Esper Control. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, it's a deck I really enjoy playing. It's got a great matchup against everything that's in the meta now. If you enjoy playing board control, which I do, you'll really like this deck. Like I said, it's my favorite standard deck that I've ever played. So just be aware it's very grindy, and you're going to play most of every minute of every round that you play. So that being said, I'm going to get on out of here. Listen, folks, hope you check out the rest of our deck techs. Check out popscultureshop.com for more Magic blogs, and check us out on Patreon and help support what we do here. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great afternoon.